Welcome to Inside the Race, post North Wilkesboro. A lot to discuss today. It was Joey Logano from nowhere to somewhere, shows up in a big way, dominating the race at North Wilkesboro. The first time we have seen a points race in 30 years at that 5/8 mile short track in Wilkes County. To help me break down the race, Kyle Petty is going to join me in studio. Also, why not? The winning crew chief, Paul Wolfe, will join me in the wall. We're going to talk about the car he had and the rest of the season and what his feeling is looking ahead to the chase. And we're also going to have Alex Weaver, who's going to have another episode of Inside the Race Overtime. All right, let's jump right into it. Joining me today in studio, Kyle Petty. KP, much anticipated. It's been 30 years. What did you make of 450 laps at the short track?
So, listen, I thought it was a good race. I thought it was an old school race. It was, if you had been to Wilkesboro in the 60s, if you'd been to Wilkesboro in the 70s or 80s, you saw it. You've seen this race before. A couple of guys hit it, check out, only 4 or 5 cars in the lead lap, but it was an exciting race. The atmosphere was incredible.
I think that's where we should talk, and I don't want to take anything away from Joey Logano because it was a 45 winless streak that he broke. There was real emotion between him and Paul Wolfe. I think there's a lot to talk about there, but I actually think the star, surprisingly, is that right there. That's the star in my mind. I walked from our pre-race set, which is the middle and 3 and 4, through the grandstands to get up to the booth, and it felt just electric. And sometimes I think less is more.
Yeah.
It's a small venue. It's the Fenway Park sort of feel, right? It doesn't seat 65,000. We're not going to pretend that this sellout matches the Daytona 500. It's not 100,000 people. But what I will tell you is it was shoulder to shoulder with very passionate race fans.
That's the key, the passionate race fans. I parked out in general parking just to get a feel for what was going on. Walked through the crowd, walked all the way from way out in left field. It felt like all the way to the garage area around the racetrack. Stopped and talked to fans, watched them tailgating, watched all that. And I think that's the deal. It's the passion of the fans. I go back. Enoch Staley had a vision, had a dream for this place back in the late 40s. Bill France started NASCAR, wanted this to be a part of it. That dream ended in '96, and they didn't come. But the fans still believed in the sport. And now the dream of the fans has come true. NASCAR is back. It's a points race, and you saw it there. You saw it in every fan that sat in the grandstands.
So the million-dollar question is, should this be a yearly thing? So here's
the million-dollar question.
Here's my opinion on the schedule. I think there are 3 or 4 parts that make a schedule.
Yeah.
The first is there are some cornerstone events. We have the Southern 500, the Daytona 500, the Coca-Cola 600. You can kind of there's 6 or 7, 8 of them. You can put those on the schedule, forget about it. We then have this other group that's on the whole other end of the spectrum. I call those expansion events. I think it's our responsibility to go to new markets, new areas. I think San Diego, the Naval Base, was a perfect example of that. But in the middle, it is the where should we go and how many should we go to.
True.
Pocono, one race, magical. Michigan, one race, magical. You and I were a part of the expansion as NASCAR went west, and I think we all were proud of what we accomplished. But we definitely maybe lost sight of what we left.
Yeah, true.
And maybe we needed to leave for it to kind of – we're going to talk about this with Indy because Indy went away to the road course, and I think it's made the Brickyard better.
Yeah.
We went away from North Wilkesboro, and I will tell you the return was magical. So the answer is easy for me, that as long as the event feels like that, then we owe it to Wilkes County and North Wilkesboro to bring the Cup Series.
And I agree with that. But if I have cake every day, it's not special anymore, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what we have right now. We're having cake. I go back. This place lost its dates because of that expansion.
Yeah.
They went to New Hampshire. They went to Texas. They just took the racetrack and took the dates away. There's a reason they left North Wilkesboro, because the dates contributed to the expansion of the sport, to places that we wanted to go. And I think there is a place for a Wilkesboro. I think there's a place for a Rockingham. I think there's places that we don't run or haven't run that have a place. Is it a regular place? Is it a continuous place? I'm not sure about that, because what makes this special is we haven't seen this in 30 years. My gosh, man, you haven't seen this in 30 years. So to go back there is really special. Would it be special to go back to Rockingham? Would it be special to go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin? Would it be special to go to the streets of Charlotte? Yes, it would, for a short period of time. But I don't think that's a sustainable model for what we need. I love throwing these little nuggets in, these little nuggets every year that keep the year exciting.
It's almost like we're not on a one race or 1 year cycle.
Exactly.
It's almost like we're every couple, 3-4 years.
Exactly.
You
I
have to
agree
kind of
with that.
revisit some of these places. All right, well, we've talked here for 5 or 6 minutes, and we've buried the lead, which is perhaps Joey Logano, the 36-year-old, went to victory lane for the 38th time in his career, a 3-time champion. Paul Wolfe and Joey Logano have run 200 and now 46 races together as a duo. They have found the top of the mountain. They have found a tremendous amount of success, but it has been an absolute grind.
Yes.
We saw emotion out of Joey. This picture right here. I mean, that has, I think, two parts. It has the exuberation of victory lane, and don't overlook the young man standing beside him, sharing it with his son. I think there's 2 parts to that emotion. I want to talk about the part of the rebuild or the resurgence. If it was a resurgence of Wilkesboro, maybe it was a resurgence of Joey Logano as well. Not just a win, but just basically a butt kick.
Yeah, it was a butt kicking. And that's the way you have to look at it, because he had challengers. You know, Denny drove up, and Denny, in post-race, Denny said, I don't know what I would have changed. I was that close. He was that close. And I think it was evident by Denny going over and congratulating him. Denny recognized, we just got beat by a better car today.
Wasn't that cool to see?
That was really cool.
I love when they want to fight each other.
These guys aren't best friends.
Right, like I love when they want to fight because I love that fire. But there is something to, hey man, like he even made TV wait. Denny walked over there. It was like, what a drive.
But I looked at this, and you look at this race, and I look at what Joey did. Wilkesboro fits Joey's style. I think we've seen it in the All-Star races. I mean, he's led so many laps, won an All-Star race, led so many laps, got beat by Christopher Bell. But when you look at the thing, it just suits the way he drives. I love the way he would float into turn 1, middle, and then turn and made a huge straightaway out of it. And that's where he beat a lot of people. It was up off 2. They just couldn't. The way he worked traffic, I loved the way everything worked. But this is one race. Is it a resurgence or is it a blip on the radar screen? And that's what's going to play out over the next 4 or 5 weeks.
80-point swing relative to the cut line over the last handful of weeks for Joey Logano. I would say a quiet swing until North Wilkesboro. We have Indy, which is a little bit of an anomaly. I think it's fair to say the Fords could struggle at Indy. But I also think good track position, good strategy can make up for that.
Yeah.
Paul Wolfe's pretty good at that. Iowa, Richmond, New Hampshire, they aren't North Wilkesboro, but I put them in the category of North Wilkesboro. Short track aero, higher horsepower, and then Daytona. And I don't think the 22 could ask for a better setup of tracks.
No, true. But can he capitalize on that? And that's the deal, because we've not seen him capitalize the first half of the year anywhere. There's no track anywhere that we've run that he's been able to take advantage of. So now we're going to assume that because he won North Wilkesboro, he can capitalize on these racetracks. I'm not sure yet. He's going to have to show me that he can capitalize on these 4 or 5 racetracks. And I want to go back to your big swing. That was a big swing. But this has been a year of swings.
It really
as far as me. I look at Tyler Reddick starts the year with grand slam after grand slam. And then we see Denny Hamlin. He takes a big swing out of the middle part. Is this the beginning of his swing? Is this the beginning of Chase Briscoe's swing at it? And the question is, are they swinging too soon? Because I've said it before, NASCAR is a year of streaks. And right now, we're talking about these races fitting into his wheelhouse. Is this his streak, and is this his time?
Yeah, and you know what I loved, he told us on the post-race show on TNT, is he goes, making the chase was never our goal.
Yeah.
I know at one point it perhaps had to become their goal, but he goes, that's not, our goal's always been to win a championship. Now, not to say that they think they're there or they're in fact they have a chance, but I love the fighter mentality. He's like, man, he almost, I'm paraphrasing, not his words. He almost was like, the fact that making the chase was the question was the disappointment, because our goal is to win a championship. Our goal wasn't even to discuss making the chase.
But I love that part, and I love what he said even after the win. He said, we came here knowing we had to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
The win was just gravy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the fascinating part to me, that we are in a time with this system that these guys like Joey Logano, are so focused on the chase and so focused on making the championship that it is all about points.
Big conversation that I didn't really have circled was some other drivers having both good and bad days, right? So let's start with Tyler Reddick. Bad day for Tyler Reddick. His summer continues. He continues to fall. I'll highlight another driver here on this list. SVG over here in 14th, scored the 3rd most points We can start at the top or the bottom. What's the best conversation for you? You want to start at the top with Hamlin?
So, yeah, listen, we can start. You can start at the top. Let's start at the top.
Well, let's talk about Hamlin because Logano was amazing.
Yes.
We should be thankful Hamlin was there because he was the only one that touched.
Yeah.
He forced Logano to be his best. But dare we say another just ho-hum quiet day of the second most points for Denny Hamlin, and here he is to just continue to pad the points lead?
Yeah, it's another day for Denny Hamlin to get another top 5, and that's the way it is. He's either going to win, run second, third, fourth, fifth, right in there. It's
quite shocking the level that they're operating at.
It is. It's incredibly shocking to look at the consistency that they have, and the juxtaposition of their consistency against a Tyler Reddick, against a Joey Logano, against the other teams is fascinating. When you look at it and you say, champion, they are putting in a champion's year right now. Totally. If we go back, if you were in the old school system, they're putting in that champion's year.
Well, speed was there, but performance, management, however you want to call it, I'm going to circle these two guys right here.
Yeah.
Ryan Blaney and Ty Gibbs both received a speeding ticket on pit road. Both recovered, right?
Both,
great cars,
yes.
both recovered fine. But it was a little bit of what could have been for Ty Gibbs.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how he would have run with Joey Logano. He kind of got, he won stage 1, had that speeding ticket, had to recover. And then Ryan Blaney, I don't know if he had winning speed. We saw him up front enough. But, a 5, 6, 7, 8 point mistake coming to pit road, speeding just too quick in section 1.
Yeah, and this is cup racing in this day and time. You very rarely recover fully from your mistakes. And that's it.
You can't. The field's too deep.
It's too deep. You can't recover. And these two guys did a great job. I thought Ty Gibbs did a great job of just being patient and working his way back to the front.
Is it fair? Am I wrong to say a year and a half ago, I feel like Ty Gibbs would have knocked the fender off?
Oh, yeah.
Like this version of Ty Gibbs is really impressive. His interviews.
Oh, yes.
What he say? He wanted to rip the dash out, which
Yeah.
I loved because it wasn't like a person. And it was, what I loved is I feel like Ty's interviews get to be a little robotic.
Yeah.
But that wasn't.
That wasn't.
That was Ty being like, man, I got in a spot in the lights and they flashed, and and he basically was like, I just want to rip the dash out. And I'm like, that was a true reaction, just because he knows it's another race that he had a chance.
This version of Ty Gibbs is last year he was a rookie, and this year he's a seasoned veteran.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I don't know where that came from.
I think it's the win at Bristol?
I don't know. I don't know where that came from over the winter, but that's it. And I think as we look at Blaney, if you saw what happened to Blaney and everything that went on, he was just so fired up. He may still be there driving laps trying to catch up. That's how pumped up he was up on the steering wheel when he came back out.
We're going to move to the cut line before that, but I'm going to give an arrow to one driver because just keep an eye on this guy.
Oh, yeah,
The 19
sure.
of Chase Briscoe quietly moving now up to 8th in points. There was a question a couple months ago. We were like, man, can the 19 get it turned around? Let's talk about the cut line. Our old friends at Racing Insights, they love numbers. They love percentages. I don't believe any of these, but we're going to talk about them anyway. They're ready. I mean, William Byron, they're ready to lock him in. Bubba Wallace, we're ready to basically lock him in. I don't hate these. Shane, he was like 48% last week. He has a good run. He's at 90% right here. Their percentages swing as much as the points do, and maybe that's why the numbers do. Austin Cindric, I guess my question is, let's just start with the overall concept. When you look at these, do you say, yeah, I believe the guys above the cut line are our guys, or do you think Eric Jones, Priest, Keselowski have something to say about it?
Well, I look at Priest and Keselowski, and those guys both run the top 10.
At a short track,
at a short
with
track.
Once again, Iowa, Richmond, New Hampshire.
That's exactly right. So it kind of fit, these races kind of fit in their wheelhouse. So when you look at that, and I'll go back and I continue to say it, we're looking at 5 races. Any one of these guys, Eric Jones, Ryan Priest, Brad Kay, these guys could get on a streak. At the same time, we're looking at Austin Cindric and Bubba and Shane and some of these guys. They could get on a streak like Tyler Reddick's on.
Oh,
and
man.
if you get on that streak, it's just as easy to lose points. It's easier to lose points than it is to gain points on the competition.
I will tell you, if there's one group, one driver that I'm focused on the most in this conversation going to Indy, it's Eric Jones.
Yeah.
Legacy showed up last year on the map.
Yep.
They went from the bottom right of the timing score to the top left. They went from 25th place speed to 5th place speed, what felt like overnight.
Yes.
I know it isn't if you work there.
Yeah.
They've been putting a lot of time and effort in. It kind of got away from them a little bit. They didn't have the Brickyard they wanted.
Yeah.
We go to Pocono a few weeks ago. That's 43 of Eric Jones. Great speed again. Yes. I think Eric Jones could be the guy that upsets this apple cart if he has, I'm not saying he's going to go to Indy and win. Could he? Maybe. But a monster day in Indy would do a lot for the 43.
Yes, and listen, I think these guys are focused on Indy right now. Talking to Eric yesterday at the racetrack and talking about the entire team, not just Eric Jones as a driver, not just the 43 team, the entire team. And you know this, Steve, as you take a car that's used to running 15th, 16th, 18th, 20th, whatever, when they run up front, they usually take themselves out of the race on pit road because the team's just not ready to pit. They're just not that caliber of pit crew. Eric feels like over the last few weeks, as they've run better, as they've had top fives, as they've had top tens, that whole team has stepped up. So they feel like they're prepared. And, you know, Jimmy Johnson's going to be focused on Indy as an owner, you know, from that standpoint. So I think they're pretty pumped up about going to these next 4 or 5 races.
Well, one other story that came out of North Wilkesboro, which was I didn't have on my radar, was this trouble to get to pit road, right?
Yeah.
So we had the big wreck, or one of the big wrecks, was Alex Bowman from the third lane coming across the nose of the 45 and wrecking on the pit road. I'm just not sure the miscommunication there, or maybe he lost the 45. The other one was the 12 of Ryan Blaney, who came to pit road. It was a bit of a late call, but in the end, just totally misjudged the speed. Let's just listen in to radio communication on the 12.
All right, well, pick this time. Easy. First year, no.
Pretty clear.
You know, whatever. We're probably speeding.
Frustration, says he's going to be caught speeding. He's absolutely right. He knew that he was just way too fast. They let him know there's a penalty. He has to serve the penalty. Blaney comes back. When do you want me to come in? I think that this can be misconstrued as frustration at his team for the late call. I don't see it at that.
No.
I see it, Ryan Blaney just frustrated because, and in his post-race, he said the driver made a mistake. He put it all on himself. There was no finger pointing. Look, did the team call him in a little late? Maybe so. But I believe when we talk about driver, crew chief communication, this is the example, which is if I need you to come, I'm going to tell you, I would love to tell you ahead of time. If I don't, I have to believe that you know me well enough. We've discussed this. That if you have to run another lap, you just have to run another lap. And I think Ryan Blaney's frustration is he knows he was trying to do what was needed, but he also probably wouldn't have been supported if he ran another lap. It was just the frustration of the moment.
And I think, everything that you hear coming out of Ryan's mouth is intended for inside Ryan's helmet.
Yeah,
you know,
just pushes the button.
Yeah, he's just keying it up because he's saying all of this stuff to himself. He's venting to himself. And you're right. I think in that situation, a driver, and we've seen it before, we see it a lot of times. I just can't get there. I just can't. I'm going to have to run another lap. Does it throw off the strategy? Does it throw off what you on the pit box have come up with and the numbers? Yeah, it does. But you can recalculate while I'm out there racing.
Well, or you can tell me on Monday, be like, hey, man, you got to give me more than 500 yards.
And we'll talk about that when the race is over.
Yeah, that's
you know
right.
what I mean? Not during the course of it. But I think a lot of his frustration was just with the situation with himself and how it was handled.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, it's just that, right?
Yeah.
He was a car. Think about his weekend. Right, he had a car, probably a track he had circled, was going to start in the front row because of the metric. Steering put him to the back. They had recovered all the way to the front. And then it was just, man, I've done all this work, and it's going to go away.
And it's
That's a
going away.
lonely feeling as you ride on board with cars going by at speed. You're like, man, this isn't going to be.
terrible.
This just is not going to be what I'm looking for. I love to talk about the rest of North Wilkesboro, but I feel like you said it at the top of the show. It felt very North Wilkesboro-esque.
Yes.
Like, have your stuff together or get lapped. 6 cars on the lead lap. I almost celebrate it. Like
I do too, man.
Like it was an old school venue, an old school feel, and man, if you didn't have your stuff right, you paid the price.
Listen, if you watch this race, or if we could take the race on the racetrack and go back to an old broadcast with Kel Yarborough and Richard Petty and Bobby Allison and all that, and they just called those names, you would think that's what you were watching. You would think you were watching a race from the 70s or early 80s, and that's the way it played out, and that's the perfect type race for a Wilkesboro.
Well, let's talk about it then. A perfect type race for North Wilkesboro. Let's talk about our weekend winners brought to you by Powerball. It was Joey Logano who went to victory lane. Kyle Petty, who else is a weekend winner from North Wilkesboro?
I got Brad K. I've got Brad K.
Good run,
and
Brad
RFK. They were like 8th, 7th, 8th.
Finished 7th, yeah.
And I think Priest was 10th. So 2 cars in the top 10. Old school driver, old school racetrack, grounded out, got it done. So I'm going to go with Brad K.
How about this one? Todd Gilliland. Not only did he outrun Chase Elliott in the in-season challenge, but he did it by running 8th.
Yes.
So I know Chase got caught, and there was more to the story. but he didn't just kind of like limp his way in with a 22nd place finish, ran inside the top 10, finished 8th. I will put this other asterisk out there. Worst finish at the Brickyard, 6th. He has 2 6 at the Brickyard. So his weekend winner from North Wilkesboro might turn him into a millionaire at Indianapolis. Could be a lot to watch. There you have it. Weekend winners brought to you by Powerball. Another story heading into North Wilkesboro, we talked about it here on Inside the Race, was the softening of the front bumpers. Bubba Wallace made a comment post-race. I think it was more of a frustration comment. I didn't see anything. To be honest, I didn't see any extra damage. I don't think the drivers were any more timid to use the front bumper, which I'm okay with. I'll be interested to see if the drivers feel like it made a difference to them. I'm thankful it was a non-story, to be honest.
Yeah, I am too. And I didn't see anybody get close enough to anybody to use a bumper.
One time, Joey Logano tested it on Riley Herbst with about 10 to go. But he was running out of patience.
What I did see was people using the entire racetrack. So you had to pass people. It wasn't about running into somebody and knocking somebody. I mean, we saw Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin work through more traffic. Now, they would catch packs of 6 and 7 cars and have to weave their way through. And those two guys worked traffic flawlessly without ever laying a fender, ever laying a bumper on anybody. And I'm not sure you see that at Martinsville. I know you don't see that at Bristol, but it made it the guys' race. But I don't think it was a story at all. It'll be interesting when we get to some of these other racetracks, but it was a non-story.
I could have watched those two run another 100 laps.
Yes.
It was, we get a lot of noise in these races anymore. And what I mean by that is strategy comes in and traffic and aero and all of these things. And there was just something, man, it was just awesome. It was beautiful to watch. I felt like I was at the Oxford 250 or the Slinger Nationals, or it was just two of the best, two of the wily veterans leaving the field. Like every time Joey Logano would look up, he was 0.7 of a second behind him. He just couldn't
get
shake
away.
the 11, and it really made that final stage work for him.
And I say this a lot. Watching those two guys was like watching. It was like watching two artists paint a photo or paint a picture. If you are a young driver, I say this all the time, go back and watch those final 50, 60 laps and understand how they set people up, how they passed lap cars, how they worked traffic, how they raced at the same time that they were having to work traffic. It was a master class in how to race to another guy and work traffic at the same time.
Well, it's a great show on the track, a great show off the track. A tip of the hat to the fan base at North Wilkesboro. The TNT post-race show could barely happen. They were so loud, we couldn't hear the questions in our ears because the group behind us were rowdy. They were cheering. They were respectful. It was quite, the whole weekend, it was quite a show, quite a fun. But now we move on. We head from a 5/8 mile short track in Wilkes County, North Carolina, to the most famous racetrack on the entire globe, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The 30th running of the Brickyard 400 on the oval. We talk about things that have gone away and come back. You and I remember the magic when NASCAR hit those hollow grounds that IndyCar made famous, right? The Brickyard 400 is a crown jewel. It did lose its luster. We went to the road course. We are now back on the oval. Wilkesboro was made by the fan base. Indianapolis, for me, is made by the venue.
Yeah.
As a competitor, whether it was full or empty, and it's been a little bit of both, the opportunity to race at Indy never was lost on me.
Okay, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference whether they're hanging from the rafters or whether it's just your family and friends that come to watch you race. I look at it this way. It is such a historic place. It is so sacred to motorsports in America and in general. It's like saying, it's like Augusta. Yeah, they play the Masters, but if you get to play golf there, oh my gosh, man, it's Augusta. If you get to race at Indy, oh my gosh, it's Indy. It's a special place. And you feel it when you roll through the tunnel. You feel it when you walk through the garage area. You feel it when you roll out on pit road to go take those first laps. It's something that a driver feels and something that a team feels that you don't feel other places because you feel the ghost of the people that walked pit road before you. You feel the ghost of the IndyCar guys and the Formula One guys and the Cup guys who have won before you. It's total motorsports encompassed in one place.
And I will tell you, their storylines are abundant. Not only are we going to be talking about the chase, 6 of the last 8 have gone to overtime. It's the only crown jewel missing off Denny Hamlin's trophy case. We had a couple tire issues last year. Bubba won last year. I mean, the amount of storylines we could carry into is really abundant. But I just want to start with the technical side, the race. It is a track position race. It is just like the Indy 500. We are not going to see 3 wide lap after lap after lap. The competitors know it. We know it. It's about positioning yourself to take probably right sides and the least amount of fuel on the final pit stop. I am okay with it because its identity is clear. It is not veiled behind some sort of camouflage. You know what you get when you go to the Brickyard. You have to have a good enough car to survive if you do it right. But no matter how good your car is, you still have to do it right.
Yeah, there are set parameters on how to run this race.
And it starts early in the weekend. Is that fair? Like if you mess up qualifying, everything becomes difficult.
Oh, yes. Listen, it starts when you roll out to qualify. It definitely does. Because if you put yourself in a box, now everything's changed. Everything's changed on how I get up front. Because you're not going to drive. I don't believe you're going to drive from 32nd to the top 5 at a place like Indianapolis. You've got to have other factors that come into it. So, it's a set parameters. You know what you're seeing. You know what you're watching. And you hope all week long as a fan that your guy qualifies in that top 5 or 6 and has a shot at executing that strategy and coming out the victor.
Yeah, there's something special about that entire place. It's going to be fun to tune in on TNT Sunday afternoon. We've had a string of night races, but we're back. No lights at Indy, so I know I'm going to be getting home a little earlier than I have been the rest of the week. The Pagoda will be famous. We'll be up on the 9th floor calling the action for TNT. Tune in. NASCAR returns to the Brickyard, the 30th running of the Brickyard 400 on the Oval. TNT Sunday afternoon. Big thanks to Kyle Petty for joining me in studio, taking a look back at North Wilkesboro. He has such a good grasp on the sport's past and understanding where he thinks it should go to the future. Well, now it's time to talk to the victor. The winning crew chief, Paul Wolfe, will join me. All right, joining me now, the winning crew chief for Joey Logano, Paul Wolfe. Paul, from the office. Impressive. Already back in the office, getting back to work.
Oh, yeah. Nothing changes when you win. You're just, what have you done for me lately, right? So it's how are we gonna get ready to go to Indy and perform well there is where we're at now.
Yeah, well, it's happier. It's a happier coffee pot on a Monday. That's what I tell everybody after a win. Let's talk about North Wilkesboro. Man, you guys, this is like your thumbprint. This is you guys' playground. You're so good there. That car you had was outstanding. Was your confidence that high going? Like, what is it about that place that the 22 just has figured out?
Well, like you said, obviously it's been good. I think short tracks in general is a strength of the 22 team. It has been for the last few years. So we've been able to run a lot of laps there testing. It's been noted before, I think, prior to the All-Star win, the opportunities we had there, making the most of those. And then we had 2 more opportunities this past off season. There was a December test as well as the January team test. And I think it just goes to show like our team does a really nice job of making the most of these opportunities when we can get real track time, right? And I think that kind of suits maybe my style and the way my team is structured with my engineers and myself, just kind of being more of a hands-on type guy and really being, able to go to the racetrack and learn things and then apply them when we go back. And, with the struggles we've had this year, just in general on this team and not being where the expectation is, there's always doubts, right? When you go there, and are we going to be able to get back to the level we've been on short tracks in the past? And, we had a reasonable practice on Saturday and felt like we were in the game, but never really saw that we would be able to do a performance like we did on Sunday night. So we got the balance a lot closer than what we had in practice. And when the race started, he felt really good about it. And I think the speed went along with it. So that was nice, but it's a long race, right? Like 450 laps. That's a long race there, and a lot happens. And, the track's continuing to cool down. So you've done this long enough. You're afraid to adjust on it because you don't want to screw it up, but the track's changing and everyone else is continuing to work. So it's a fine line there of balancing that, especially in a race that's that long.
Yeah, take me into that final stage. You bring it up. I've been unfortunate part of cars that you like, and I don't know what I'm going to do to make them better. It sometimes is just as scary when you have a car like you had. because you're so scared to make changes. Your gut's telling you have to make changes. Now you're closing in on green flag pit stop. Just walk the fans through when you're sitting up there. Like, are you literally just waiting for the 11 to pit and you're going to come the next lap? There's a pretty big risk for coming before the 11 with potential cautions there. Like how is that decision? What are the nerves like knowing that green flag stop's coming?
Well, it's tough, and I've said this even leading up to this stretch of races, right? Like, to me, I feel more pressure at tracks where we run well because, to your point, you don't want to screw it up, right? This is an opportunity race, opportunity moment, as we got that deep into the race. Like, okay, we have the dominant car. Like, we can't screw this up. This is a big opportunity for us. So, yes, you feel the pressure, and we're running through scenarios on the box, and not only I felt like last night it's keeping up with the car, but then a little bit of keeping up with the strategy, because I think going into this race, this was a new left side tire that seemed to have a little more fall off than what we saw at the All-Star races. And, when you look at those stage lengths, it's like, are you going to do a full fuel run here, or where are the tires going to go when you get past that, 100 lap mark, right? And you're kind of working your strategy and your adjustments around how long of a run you're going to have. And the first, the second stage, it was, the plan was to split that stage, right? You're going to run that 80 to 90 lap run, pit, and then finish it out. Well, the fall off got a little bit better as we saw it cool down. So now we're like, geez, do we need to think about running this stage out? We could just make it on fuel, right? Everyone was at the point where you could just make that 180, 70 some laps, I think, by the time we went back green. So, like, there was multiple things going on there. Not, that's quite a difference thinking you're going to run 90 laps versus 170, and like, your car is going to need something different. And you don't know when the caution is going to fall. So there was a lot going on. I think we obviously managed it well and kind of stuck to our plans and worked through all that. And then you're also relying on, Joey's feedback of, where he thinks the car is at, and does he feel the track's changing, and short run, long run. Obviously the first 10 laps of a run was a bit of a weakness. It took us a few laps to get going, and we talked about at one point in the race of I can adjust to fix that short run for you, but I don't know what the penalty is going to be on the backside of that, and balancing all that out. And I think he was in the mindset of, I'll fight him off for 10 laps because we were so good on the long run. It was worth giving up that little bit. So at the end of the day, there wasn't big changes. Still just little here and there, but overall, the car stayed pretty solid as the night went on.
Well, and you were trying to outrun the guy who currently just has the hot hand, right? Denny, you could tell when you guys left pit road under green, he knew that 10-lap weakness. Like, you didn't have to tell him. He knew that he had to keep you closer. He couldn't let you control the pace. He couldn't let you just kind of escape those first 10 laps. I will tell you from the TV booth, it was just captivating to watch what I consider two of the absolute greatest currently in the cars chase each other through traffic. Was some of the most entertaining racing. It's hard to believe I'm saying it's an entertaining race with 6 cars in the lead lap. I would like to blame you, but Denny Hamlin pushed you into it. Like, it was a great battle between those two heavyweights.
No, it was. And as you talk about the strategy of it all, and we knew, where the fire off speed was, and we were able to keep that close to a 1 second gap leading up to the final pit stop. And we knew at that point we had 1 lap to react to a short pit, and that's what, when you're leading the race like that, you don't want to pit any sooner than you need to, right? You want to run because of that untimely caution that's going to catch you behind, as it did some of our competitors earlier in the race that started short pitting us and got caught a lap down because of it. So that's where you're at when you're leading the race like that, is you're really just playing off of the guys behind you, running as long as we can until we get him in the risk of them short pitting us and jumping us. Because as good as our car was, it's still, clean air's king everywhere we go, right? And
yeah.
you can be 2/10 faster than somebody, but if you get stuck behind them and they dirty up your air, that could be the difference maker. And the 11 was good enough that if he got in front of us, it would have been a big challenge to get back by him. So we're listening to their team communication, understanding when he's going to pit. And as soon as we heard 11 was pitting, it was a no-brainer that we were coming that next lap. And it timed out about as close as you could get it, but it all made sense that we were just going to come off in front of him. And then it was just up to Joey to fight him off there, like I said, for that short run, knowing that eventually we were going to be able to pull the gap back on him.
At the start of this conversation, we kind of joked that, it's a Monday, win, lose, or draw. You're back in the office getting ready for Indianapolis. But I've lived it, right? I went winless with Jeff Gordon. Dale and I had winless years. It had been 45, races for you and Joey. And what I love about you guys is a mutual respect. When Joey came and joined us at the post-race desk, he's like, he was almost a bit emotional, or at least seemed that way, that he goes, when you don't see the results, he goes, great leaders like yourself or drivers like himself, he said, you have to look in the mirror on what you're doing. What can we do? Okay. And it seemed like there was a bigger celebration than normal, or relief, or any of that. What was it like, right? 45 weeks, I've done it. That's a long time of working as hard as you work without seeing those trophies that are stacked up behind you in your office. What was it like to finally see what you guys knew you could do the whole time come to fruition one more time? And it's it wasn't a strategy win. This was an absolute butt kicking.
Yeah, it's a relief for sure. I don't usually get very emotional, and I try to keep, pretty calm, through the good and the bad. That's what's worked for me over my career. But you do start to get those doubts of like, are we going to be able to do this again? When you go 45 races, it's like, as good as you've been in the past, that doesn't matter, right? It's like I said, it's what have we done lately? And although I've told the guys, and I've preached this year specifically to the pit crew guys, because I feel like those guys have done a great job this year of continuing to perform. They're kind of like the human element, right? Like they're the guys that mentally can really ride the waves. And it's like, I just kept the pressure on those guys to keep doing their part, because one day we're going to have that car that is capable of winning. And by no means do you want to drop the ball at that point. So it's continuing to stress to the guys, and that's the guys working on the car too. Like, don't be the weak link, because we will turn this around eventually. And if you get in the mindset of, what I do doesn't really matter, then as a team, you'll lose in the end. And I think the performance last night just proved that everyone has continued to work at their top level, because you can't perform like we did last night without the whole team and everyone doing their part. So, like I said, it's been tough, and it was definitely a relief, but it just shows that, continuing to put in the work and be smart, right? It's working smart. It's not always about working harder, but you have to work smart too. And we've continued to do that. And it shows that although we've struggled on certain style of tracks, we still have what it takes when it comes to our strengths and making sure we're maximizing those opportunities. And I see a few more of those ahead of us here as we finish up the regular season.
I love it because we talk a lot about the cars and the technology and the strategy, but that was a master class in leadership, right? To make sure when the ball got passed your way, whatever part of the team you were, that you were ready to. And it's hard, right? It's an emotional sport, and when you don't see the reward that you think you should get, it's hard to kind of lead that team. Well, you said it. What have you done for me lately? So let's forget it. Let's move along. On to the Brickyard. You've won it there. You and Brad pulled it off. I think it was back in 2018. You know what it's like to win there. It is an absolute Rubik's Cube. You got to have a great race car, but that's the start. But then no matter how good your race car is, if you don't manage the day correctly, there's really no way to recover that I've ever seen. You have to be the guy that has the right fuel load at the right time and get track position. You probably have to be, top 4, 5, 6 on that last run, no matter how good you are, to think you have a chance. How much prep, when you look at the Brickyard, is about the car itself? How much of it's how we're going to actually operate the race?
Yeah, I think you hit it the nail on the head. It's as much about strategy and positioning yourself throughout the race as it is car performance. yes, you have to have a decent car, but it's so hard to pass there. It's all about positioning your car for that last run, and you're working the strategy backwards at times throughout the race to make sure that last time off a pit road you've put yourself in the best position forward you can. There is some passing. I'm not going to say you can't. We've done it, but yeah, it's a big strategy race, and I think you have to have a solid car, but at the end of the day, you're not going to pass your way through the field. So we've seen fuel mileage come into play so much there, and I think managing that and understanding what fuel savings and what the driver's capable of and whatnot is a big part of how much risk you're willing to take when you get cautions at certain times or when you feel like your fuel window is opened up. So it's definitely a fun one, if you're a strategy guy, and we've been able to have a lot of success that way. So yeah, it takes a lot, and it's a big weekend for us. We know this is a big year for Penske's 60-year anniversary, and we know how much this racetrack means to the captain, and it's always fun to go there and run well, and yeah, like I said, hopefully we could bring home another trophy.
So that's my final question is, you have the opportunity to do something I've never had, which is win for an owner who also owns the racetrack. I mean, Roger Penske, Indianapolis Motor Speedway and Roger Penske were synonymous for decades. He dominated the Indy 500, and then he went and bought the racetrack. So now you are literally going to the track that he owns. It has to be a big week for the entire company.
It is. Like I said, we enjoy going there, and obviously he's put a lot into this racetrack, and we know how much it means to him and Team Penske as a whole. So take a lot of pride in that, and I mean, it still pays the same points and whatnot. There's nothing different there, but it's just we know what it means to him, and it's special whenever we can perform to the expectation and make it exciting.
Well, man, listen, I'm not going to hold you up anymore. I know you got a lot to do this week. I appreciate you joining on a early Monday after a fun night, an impressive night. Congratulations on a dominating performance up at North Wilkesboro.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Thank you to Paul Wolfe for joining us on this episode, and congratulations to him, Team Penske, and Joey Logano on that big win. Well, it's time to turn the corner and look forward to the next episode of Inside the Race Overtime. On this week's episode, Alex Weaver talks to superstar Christopher Bell in his 7th season of full-time Cup Series racing, still looking for his first trip to victory lane. But the Norman, Oklahoma native knows what it's like to continue to fight. He has fought through injury after that huge wreck at Michigan.
Our viewers that are listening, I'm sitting here looking at Christopher, and he doesn't have anything on his wrist. How is the wrist injury feeling? What's going on with that? Update me.
The wrist is healthy. I don't know if you can see a bruise. Yeah, I got a nasty bruise right there. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but
battle wound.
Yeah, exactly. So it honestly, the recovery went super, super smooth. Whenever I broke my wrist in June, it was at the beginning of June. Certainly Wilkesboro was the race that I had circled of like, hopefully I'm 100% ready for Wilkesboro. And yeah, if it wasn't,
which is pretty impressive. That's quick.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for having Atlanta be a super speedway race, and I feel like I probably could have raced without anything on my wrist, last weekend. So, yeah, I'm super happy that I feel good. I'm certainly still weak, but I think I'm good enough to drive the car. And, I'm really proud of myself for how I acclimated to driving with a cast on and basically, having to relearn how to drive one-handed. So it worked out really well. We made the most of it. And, I've had a couple of good runs. So we're looking up right now. That's for sure.
If you would have won with the cast on, would you worn the cast just for funsies the rest of the season?
So I wanted to so bad put a win sticker on the cast. That's what I wanted to do. And by golly, we came close, but that's all right.
Yeah. Didn't Noah Gregson sign your cast? Wasn't that a highlight of your injury?
So where was that? That was at San Diego, right?
Yep.
So after every race, I got a new cast because racing in it would get all sweaty and deformed and stuff. So before the race weekend, before the race, Noah came up and he's like joking around, let me sign your cast. I was like, okay, go for it. And it got cut off right after that. And I gave it to him. So shout out to Noah. I don't know if he still has it or not. That'd probably be pretty gross.
I'm sure he does. That like strikes me as a weird Noah thing that he would keep it. Well, I want to revisit that wreck and that accident because so gnarly. And I don't think we obviously saw the impact when we were watching it, but it was one of the biggest hits I've ever seen covering the sport. Obviously, I felt like took the brunt of it versus Chase Elliott, who kind of got into you a little bit. You protected him from the wall, but when you look back and you've watched it, what did you remember? Did you black out? I mean, what happened inside the car?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I try to not watch it. I have seen it, once or twice whenever it comes. I don't remember. I think Adam and I watched it in the office one time or something like that. But yeah, well, first off, Chase was in for a super, super big impact if I wasn't there to catch him. Yeah, Chase was in a bad spot there, and yeah, it was a big one. I think I said in my press release, like, I'm super thankful for all of our predecessors or the drivers and the people who have worked in the sport to get the cars and get the safety gear to where it is today. And yeah, I mean, everything inside the car worked flawlessly. Like, my Hans device kept my head in place, my head surround kept my head in place. The foam absorbed all of the heavy impact. I was nervous, like, well, I've hit the wall, and I don't know if nervous is the right word, but after I hit the wall, I like kind of came to a stop, and I'm like, I think I'm okay. Like, I think I'm okay. Like, I remembered everything. I was seeing those little Tweety birds, the like are going around. Like, I was seeing stars and like, but I never blacked out. Like, I remember everything. And then whenever I came to, I'm like, I think I'm okay. And I reached down with my left hand to undo my cool shirt. And whenever I reached down, it's like a little button that you have to click with your thumb and your index finger. And I couldn't undo it. And like, the moment that I put pressure on it, I'm like, oh, that hurt. And I'm like, okay, something's wrong. And then I went to the window net, and I couldn't get my window net down with my left hand. And I'm like, okay, well, something's wrong with my wrist. But other than that, like, I had a pretty good hunch that my head was okay. And then whenever we got to the infield care center, they did all the concussion tests, and I did well. So, and then I never had a headache. So I was super lucky and very fortunate that I didn't hit my head and get a concussion.
Well, I think that I get a little, I don't want to call it bias, but there's something that I see you guys every day. I'm friends with you. I'm friends with your wife. And, we walk around the garage and we don't think a thing about you guys hopping in these steel traps for 200 miles an hour on Sunday. You've been doing this your whole entire life, and dirt crashes, I feel like, are way crazier sometimes I see when I'm watching those. Do you ever stop and think like, hey, this is pretty crazy what I do for a living? Did that kind of kick it into high gear or no?
So I wouldn't say that I had that thought or feeling, but I will say whenever I had the crash, and it made me think that, like, I take for granted, and I think we all take for granted, like, the safety of the cars and where we're at today. And, it's anything can happen. Like, I'm at Michigan. I've run at Michigan several times now, and I've never thought of, like, oh, you can crash really hard there. Like, that thought's never crossed through my mind, or like the fact that you could get hurt. I think, at least for me, I take for granted how good we have it in 2026, like with the safety of the cars and stuff like that. And so it was just like eye-opening to me of how that could have been so different, right? If we weren't in this position in time with, all of the safety advances. So I definitely do not take that for granted anymore. And I'm super thankful.
I appreciate you taking the time on this episode of Inside the Race. Kyle Petty joined me in studio. Always fun to have him join. And how about the winning crew chief? Paul Wolfe taking his time out of a busy week to joining us as he prepares for Indianapolis. Christopher Bell sitting down with Alex Weaver. Always a fun conversation. And the racing continues. NASCAR at the Brickyard, 1 p.m. on TNT. Pre-race coverage begins.